Good Monday evening, everyone. This is Daniel Crawley and Chief Meteorologist Christopher White. We are here in the Weather Center, and it is now time for the Winter Outlook 2021-22 for Western North Carolina, the Foothills, and Western Piedmont. And Chris, we've been looking over this for the last month or so. Really interested in some of the things that are going on and how it could influence our weather this winter.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts. There are always are going into winter, but this winter is no different with a lot of moving parts. We can see very volatile, uh, big swings in the weather, and so here's what we've got.
Yeah, let's look at the winter outlook. First off, we'd like to thank the folks at Me Paloma Mexican Restaurant in Morganton for sponsoring the winter outlook. If you're in the Morganton area or anywhere across the foothills, make your way over to Independence Boulevard in Morganton and pick up some great Mexican food.
Man, this stuff is good, and they've even got a mariachi band some nights of the week. Be sure to check out their Facebook page for when those are scheduled.
So let's look at the winter outlook and let's look at the headlines for the region. Negative INSO phase, La Nina. We've talked about that going back to last year, Chris. That continues as we head into this winter. Arctic sea and land ice. That's something we always look at, Chris. It's running relatively low this time of year.
Yeah, it really is, and it's not a good thing to see if you're a winter weather lover. But we don't have to have it to run above average to get a decent snowfall in the southeast, because that's what everybody's looking for.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what everybody wants. And the Madden-Julian oscillation is something we also look at. It's in that null phase. And talk a little bit about that, Chris.
Mad Julian oscillation, it's meandering in the null phase. We call it the lame phase, where it's not doing much out there. And this is talking about the thunderstorms out over the Indian Ocean, the Western Pacific. Where exactly those are lining up in and which phase they're in depends on and can show us what our weather is going to be like in 14 to 21 days down the road.
Yeah, we'll get into more details on that in just a minute. And then last thing, we've had some early hints of colder air. This past weekend, it was quite chilly. Will it persist?
We'll have to see. We're just volatile weather pattern coming up. So here we go. Here's what we've got for you.
Yeah, let's look at what we got going on. The first thing we have is the snow and ice cover across North America, the Northern Hemisphere. This is a current look at what's going on as far as the snow and ice cover. You can see a lot over Siberia, not really a lot over parts of Canada. It's a little bit unusual for this time of year, but a lot over Siberia, Greenland, and over Alaska. And just to compare it to last year, over Siberia, pretty similar, but there's a little bit more over North America last year. So running just a little bit lower than normal, Chris. So
That's right. And the only one place that is a caveat to that is Greenland. Greenland's running above average on snowfall this year. They got dumped on pretty early, and they are already, as you can see, the entire Greenland area covered in snowfall up there, running just a little bit above normal. So if we get some of those split level flows with a block over the Greenland area, maybe we get some of that cold air driven south.
yeah, we'll have to see how that evolves as we head into the winter. Of course, we talked about the MJO just a minute ago in our introduction. It is in that lame phase, as we call it. Basically, to make things simple, when we look at this, the MJO, it comes out weekly, and it's an update to a 2 or 3 week period. You want to see the MJO and the favorable phases of 8, 1, and 2, which favors more weather activity across the weather hemisphere and over toward Africa. We're not in that right now. We're in the null phase, but we're over toward 3 and 4.
That's right. You see, we're looking at this green line there. I guess they can't see where I'm pointing, huh? But the green line is what we're looking at, where we're at, and where we're going here. Some of the forecast models, a little different algorithm built in, saying what's going to happen there. So you can see there's a couple hinting that we come around the 8, 1 going into 2 phase, but it's really staying really close to that null phase. We don't have much in the way of thunderstorm activity going on in the Western Pacific and the Indian Ocean. Last year, we were able to overcome a lot of the La Nina because of this MGO pattern. Those thunderstorms and that MGO pattern kind of overrode what the La Nina usually throws at us. But this year it doesn't look like, at least early on, we're going to be able to do much with that.
Yeah, and just to show on this map, the MJO is a forecast that can be driven off both the main global models, the GFS and the European, that we usually look at for our forecasting. But they're both in that null phase. I guess the only good thing is the fact, since it's in the null phase, it's not strongly into a bad phase right now.
Right.
So it wouldn't take a whole lot to put it into 8-1, but you would want it solidly in 8-1 if you really want an active snow pattern. We just don't see that right now. And the other good thing I'll say, considering we are just in the month of November, we're not shooting over all of our bullets, so to
That's
speak,
right.
early on. So maybe when we get into December and early January, that'll work more into our favor. Looking at some of the teleconnections, the North Atlantic Oscillation, we look at this a lot. Chris talked about the Greenland blocking a little bit earlier. You need a negative phase of the NAO for that to happen. Right now, it seems to be running pretty close to neutral, and it seems to be going that way over the next couple of weeks. And I would say uh, probably working its way toward Thanksgiving, probably in a similar area.
It probably will be. You see the green line, the blue line. The green line is the ensemble mean. That's where all the models average comes out to be. The blue line is the operation, the control run, the main model showing, and that blue line changes very sporadically through the season. And these teleconnections, you could see them pretty good a week to 2 weeks out now.
Yeah.
You get out past that, and it's kind of like throwing a dart at the dartboard, and you really can't see if the dartboard's even there. So
Yeah.
it's just a hint of where the weather patterns could take us down the road, looking out in the long range.
Yeah, and like you said, anywhere from probably 10 to 14 days.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anything past that gets a little bit more leery as far as what's happening. You see wild swings usually. Another thing we look at as far as teleconnections, the Pacific North America Oscillation. This is how we get ridging over Western North America, and a lot of times you need ridging, and you need those Arctic high pressures to push cold air down into the central and eastern U.S. You need a positive phase of the PNA, and right now we're actually going to be positive heading through the next, say, week or so, and you'll notice it in our forecast. Uh, Going into this coming weekend and maybe even the week after, generally it's going to be cooler than normal. And that has a little bit to do with the PNA being positive. But then once you get toward the middle part of November, it's probably going to get back toward neutral.
Well, you say, well, you're right now. You look outside, you go outside, it's warm. It's almost 72 degrees. But look where that PNA's at right now. Over here on the left, around the 6th and 8th, we're in that negative phase, headed positive. So you can see the cooler pattern that Daniel just talked about, trending out there in the next week to 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Let's look at the jet stream patterns. This is really our primary jet pattern that we think is going to happen. It's a very La Nina-like pattern. It's a zonal west to east flow with the flow coming in off the Pacific, across the Rockies, and you can get low pressure to form in the southern plains, and they tend to move right along that jet stream across the Tennessee Valley and up toward the northeast and off northeast coast. That generally is going to keep us milder and probably a little bit on the drier side. Whereas you get up into the lower Ohio Valley, the central Appalachians, maybe a little bit more of a snowy active pattern. That we believe is our primary jet stream pattern right now.
And that is a very progressive pattern. Nothing slowing anything down. The systems haul from west to east across the United States in terms of getting east of the Rockies. They're usually moisture starved when they get in here. So that's really the main pattern we think that's going to play out, unfortunately, this winter. But
Yes, there's always that caveat. Something different could come up, and this is something that we're keeping an eye on. This would be a secondary jet stream pattern, more of a split flow pattern. And basically, what happens, you have a similarity as far as the jet coming off Pacific, but when you get that positive PNA and you get that ridging over Western North America, you can force that jet to split. And the stronger piece is going to go way up to the north and then make a pretty good dive into the U.S. That's going to drag in colder air.
mm-hmm.
Also, the other piece of it's going to split, not as strong, but still can provide some storm systems that take a little bit further track.
That's right.
We've had some cutoff lows earlier this fall that have taken a track similar to this and has really kind of detached itself from the jet stream.
Yep.
And it just seems like that we could see that happen again this year. Here's an example of how that low pressure would take that southern track. The nor'easter we've seen right now, currently just off the Carolina coastline, a great example of this right here.
That's
So
right.
what you might have is you're going to have these storm systems that go well off the coast, while your high pressure is still pretty far up to the north. But what's eventually going to happen, that high pressure will dive down as that jet buckles and it brings in cold air. So I think that is something we're going to have to keep an eye on with this secondary jet stream pattern. Anomalous upper lows and a potential for some colder air. Of course, the big thing for us here in North Carolina, you got to get all the sync up at once to get
That's
snow.
the ticket right there.
And that's hard to do.
And you're going to see there's already some signs in the models, and a lot of people over the last, I'd say, 5 years or so, we've noticed watch the models and then message us, and that's awesome. I love you digging into those. Just know that when you see a model predicting the precipitation running and the cold air catching up to it, we call that cold air chasing.
Yeah.
You're most likely not going to get snow east of the mountains with
Yeah.
that type of scenario, but that can set up a better pattern behind it.
Yeah, a lot of times, when you get into this split flow pattern, once this piece of high pressure moves down, there's going to be systems to the south coming in behind it. So that's when you have to watch for snow or even icing events for us, is after that initial cold air and after that initial buckle in the jet stream. So really, you want this kind of split pattern to go a good 7 to 10 days to give an opportunity. If it's 2 days and out, you're not going to have a chance. You're just going to have a rush of cold air and it quickly moving out and something replacing it.
That's right.
So let's look at the temperatures for the winter season. Of course, meteorological winter is the months of December, January, and February. Really fitting the La Nina, the primary pattern. We're going to be above normal again this year.
And that's been the trend the last couple of years. Daniel, you put it best when you said, looking at the temperatures, you get, five, what is it, 5 out of the 7 days in the week that are above normal, and you only have 2 or 3 that are below normal.
Yeah, it seems to be happening a lot around here, and we feel like that's going to happen again this year. The further northwest you get, the closer to the storm track, the primary storm track, there's a chance you're going to be more at normal or below. So let's look at precipitation. This is real interesting, Chris. This is kind of the one thing that really doesn't go lockstep with La Nina. And we have seen this already this fall. Um, Areas have been dry, but we've also had some pretty big precipitation events that kind of catch ourselves and catch up from where we're dealing with extended dry weather. And I feel like there's a pretty good chance that's going to happen again.
I think it certainly could happen again and multiple times this winter where we end up very dry for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then you get this big surge of moisture that comes in off the Gulf with the split level flow, the jet stream. And as it does so, the two, it may not be snow all the time. It may not be any form of winter precipitation at all. It may just be liquid rain and cold liquid rain at times with that.
Yeah, that's what it looks like for precipitation. Really, a good part of the southeast could be fairly close to normal. Now, here's the big map, Chris, everybody wants to see. Yep, the old drum roll. Let's give the drum roll and let's look at these snow maps. Okay, here we go, Chris. Tell me a little bit about this map, what you see.
So basically, what I see here is we're looking over on the right at your scale. Okay, you've got above normal, near normal, below normal, and well below normal. You don't see any of that purple, that fuchsia in here because we just don't see that happening this year. Near normal in the mountains, the northwestern parts of the foothills, little Switzerland up to Jonas Ridge, because of those northwest flows with some of those clipper type systems that drive down south when that P&A goes positive. They'll get the northwest flow snow up there an inch or two at a time. It's not probably going to be anything magnificent by any stretch of the imagination, but with enough of those, you can get to near normal.
Yeah, and looking at the legend there, you notice I put percentages, near normal being within 20%, low or high of normal. The below normal, which we have across the foothills, unfortunately, is anywhere from 50 to 80%. And you'll kind of understand this more when I show you the yearly snow averages while we're going this range.
Yeah.
I know some people may say, well, 50% of normal, that's well below normal. But when
Yeah.
you only average so much snow, from an actual number standpoint, it's not that much. So
Exactly. So you could really, we talk about it. It takes one event.
yes, and yeah, like you said, one event could blow this forecast right out the window at any point.
That's right.
And then and really just because this map kind of covered into that area well below normal down in South Carolina. But again, those areas average what 1.5 inch of snow a year. So, what we might be saying is you get a trace of snow for the whole winter.
That's it. Yeah, and down there you don't see typically a lot of snowfall. Anyway, it takes a pretty good low pressure system to produce that. A real southerly track
Yep.
through the southern United States to produce it. We just don't see that happening that much across the area.
So let's look at these snowfall averages, and again, you'll kind of understand why we went where we went on the forecast. Starting in the foothills, places like Morganton and Marion average about 6.5 inches of snow a year. Lenore averages about 6, same as Taylorsville. You get down into Rutherford County, Rutherfordton around 4 inches a year. Of course, Shelby's that hot, or not Shelby, but Hickory's that hot
Hickory.
spot for whatever reason. They
Yep.
average close to 7 inches of snow a year. And then once you get from Shelby to Lincolnton, you're anywhere from about 3.5 to 5 inches. So really think about this. Like Marion, for example, 6.5 inches of snow. If we feel like it's anywhere from 50 to 80% of that, you're talking anywhere from 3.25 inches to about 5 inches.
That's right. And you know, that's exactly, and it's not probably all going to come at one with one event. It's probably going to take a couple small ones to get up to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, you take an area like Marion and Morganton, the high end of that range that we talked about, you're probably looking at about 5 inches of snow this winter. Once you work your way into Shelby and Lincolnton, you know, half of that is what, 1.5 inches to about 2.5 inches.
Yeah.
And then the high end, the 80% of that would be somewhere in the 2.5 to about 4 inch range. So
Yeah.
that's what we feel like is a safe bet right now as far as the foothills and Piedmont on snow. Unfortunately, we just cannot give a forecast for above normal snow. But again, Chris said one storm can take care of it. So hopefully, uh, the right pattern will set up and we can overachieve on these totals.
Well, yeah, and that's our hope. We want to overachieve because we're weather lovers too. And I see your comments out there. I see it pouring through. We don't want any snow. I see you folks out there too. Well, you've got your summer and you had a hot one, so I need my winter, please. Okay, I sweat, and when it's above 65 degrees outside. So bring on the snow. I say.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd like to see a pretty good snow myself. It's been a couple of years. So let's look at the key points to wrap up our winter outlook. The jet stream has the potential to change frequently. We've talked about that a couple of times. Uh, we may see southeast ridge, but I just don't see it being as pronounced as last year.
Right, I don't either, and it looks like it's going to be under materialistic. It's
Yeah.
not going to have a lot to do with our weather this year.
Precipitation close to normal across the region, but it will be generally mild above normal. And then again, we're talking about the split flow pattern. You can get a really wild setup where you get upper lows to cut off, or if the trough doesn't set up over the eastern U.S., it may set up just to our west, and it brings us a lot of moisture at one time. So with that split flow and undercutting, that is very possible as we head into the winter. So that is our winter outlook, Chris. I hope everybody enjoyed that, snow lovers or not. If you have any comments, please leave comments on our Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. You can email us. You can send us private messages. Any other questions you may have about winter weather. We will have this on all of our social media platforms. We will have it on our website, foothillsweather.net. And we'll have us up for you. That way you can look at it if you're not able to watch it here live tonight. But we're getting there, Chris.
Be sure you check us out on our app too.
Yes, download our app today. I tell you what, when it comes to winter weather, there's no better piece of equipment to have on your phone than our Foothills weather app.
We build that forecast in there. It's not computer generated. We're able to go in and use our local factors in there and our experience in forecasting this region. So it's the best weather app you will find anywhere in the foothills of North Carolina.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we've had a lot of people brag about it. We appreciate you download it, and those who haven't downloaded it, do it today. Once again, I'd like to thank Meat Paloma for being our sponsor for the Winter Outlook.
I smell a tamale.
I do too.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, it's that time,
It's
Chris.
that time.
We're going to wrap it up, folks. Y'all have a good evening. Enjoy the winter weather. Hopefully, what little bit we'll get this winter, and You never know what we might see heading down the road. And anytime we got a threat of winter weather, check us out, foothillsweather.net. Check out our social media outlets. This is Daniel Crawley. This is Chief Meteorologist Christopher White. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you later.